Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to cover the QQQ ETF or the Nasdaq-100 essentially for the week of January 25th and what a week it's going to be. If you like this content, please like or subscribe. And for those that are new, normal processes, we're just going to cover a high level of what's expected for the next week. Then we'll jump into companies that are announcing the week of January 25th, which there's a ton. Amazon, AMD, Tesla, you name it. There are 18 of them announcing, and we'll cover price targets, expectations, that kind of stuff. And then we'll cover just why we're predicting it's going to be a put or a call. This is all done using Prep to Grow's big data and AI platform. I'll show a little bit about that as we dig into the price targets for this week. Again, if you like this content, please like or subscribe. And this is Prep to Grow's recommendations based upon our big data AI platform. So let's just jump into it. So first things first, what's the week look like? Volatile. We predicted last week or this week that it was going to be volatile. It was up at the beginning of the week, down at the end of the week. Just because of the earnings, right? People are getting into it, pulling back a little bit before the earnings, showing in the reduced volume for the week. But to be honest, all the numbers and growth that we're seeing is very, very good last week or this week. Intel, Netflix certainly beat expectations, certainly what we were projecting. We expected flat growth, but did better than that. And Intel, same, did pretty good with the new CEO, new plans and that kind of stuff. So the outlook is looking positive, and we talked a little bit about that. But for this week, volatile, just because of the ton of earnings happening this week for all the big movers of the Q. So we typically don't recommend investing into earnings season. You never know what's going to happen. It could be one word within an announcement, and that could crash the stock, what otherwise would have been just a fantastic quarter. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. Don't recommend betting on earnings. It's usually a loss or 50-50. We do have holdings in this, but we'll cover those as we go through them. But reasoning, Q4 is great. Q1 is great. Look, the growth's going to go. Qs are going to continue to go up. It's earnings season, so always be cautious. FANG is the FANG Plus. For those that you don't know, there's about 16 companies that make up 65% of the total holdings for the QQQ ETF or the Qs. And if they move, the whole queue moves. So that's important to distinguish between those two. There's a 85, 84 small ones that you shouldn't really care much about. But watch the FANG Pluses. Those are the ones to watch. And if they're bouncing or expected to bounce, then you expect Qs to bounce. Earnings are going to be interesting next week. A whole lot of announcement, but Q4 growth has looked great. Unemployment at this point is really the only negative. Most other conditions are kind of working themselves out with plans in place. The macro conditions, unemployment is a concern. However, unemployment is not a concern for the Qs. They're growing like gangbusters. So let's just show you what that looks like growth-wise. This is for the last roughly almost 13 months now, since January 1st, 2020. Just for background, we've been watching most of the Nasdaq-100 since 2012, 2011. Every day, collecting millions of data points on them to come up with these predicted growth projections. But certainly from this year compared to last year, much higher. Went through the swing of what not the Qs, but the macro conditions were in May to October, but has consistently bounced back up since the bottom of July or August. So big growth for them. Our growth predictions are also supported by the market analyst predictions. But for the most part, you should expect Q1 to be well. There's no real signs of any pullback like there was at the beginning of the year, but growth is going to be very, very good. Or is expected to be very, very good for Q1 based on the data we've seen. And Q4 was also a ramp from recovery. So let's jump into the ones that are going to announce this week. There's a ton of them. There's 18 of them. Every big name you can think of is announcing. Apple, Facebook, AMD, Amazon, Amgen, Tesla, Comcast, yada yada. The list goes on and on. So let's cover a couple of these in detail. So this is the Grow application. So this is our big data AI platform. So if you want to see any recommendations or any company that's announcing for the week, what you really want to do is to jump into the filters, and in the filters, you can just quickly scroll down and see anybody that's announcing within the first 3 weeks. If I hit yes, hit apply, I'll see all the earnings that are coming. That's either this week or in the next 2 weeks. So this week, Intel and UAL announced. So you'll see those plus any future ones. But I went through and sorted them out. And so you'll see the 10, I think, or 9 that we're going to cover real quick. We have different views, card views and table views, so you can see quick different views of them. There's a bunch. The ones that we have holdings in is Biogen, ADP, Facebook. Love Facebook. Had a great couple of weeks, or a great week. Those are the 3 that we really own out of the 9. Let's kind of jump into it. Amgen, good company, California-based company in Anaheim. Like them, know people who work for them. Projecting they're going to go down a little bit. We have an 87% accuracy in predicting when we make a put, and the price target for them is 226, so a bit of a down for them. If we look at Apple, our algorithm loves to hate Apple. Our algorithms love making puts against Apple. We have an 81% success rate with them, but it's Apple. It's hard to bet against them. The algorithms are predicting a 109 stock price, so it may be a pullback. But it's Apple, so it's hard to bet against Apple. This is not a recommended strategy for us, by the way. This is the algorithms with an 81% accuracy. I personally wouldn't bet against Apple. Our algorithms are expecting a pullback, but I certainly want to bet against them going into an earnings announcements. Lam Research, another put. We're not very accurate, 66% in over 30 days. Our projection is 414. So this Lam Research, I like Lam, Barry company, Fremont-based, important company along the lines of Applied Materials. Another one of those boring semiconductor capital equipment companies. But if they're going up, it's a good sign for the economy. If they're going down, it's a real bad sign for the economy. Typically, Lam, Applied Materials are viewed as leading indicators of what's going to happen in the economy. Biogen Pharma Company, like these guys, or like to invest in these guys. It's a put. We're expecting them to go down to 254, and we have holdings with them. We've made a couple of put calls on them over the last 3 to 6 months. I've always worked out pretty well. 90% success rate. Again, we don't recommend buying into earnings. Always highly risk. AMD, we have a put against AMD. It's pretty high. Took a little step back with Intel, and we played that volatility with them prior to that as a put. 86% accuracy over 30 days, 78 over 5 days. Some volatility with them. ADP, another one announcing this week. Call ADP, New Jersey company. Know them. Human capital, HR payroll company. Know that space real well from time at Oracle. PeopleSoft. They're boring company, incredibly boring. A lot of products, a lot of overlapping products, but they're really highly pegged to unemployment rates. We expect that they're going to go up, continue to go up just because unemployment rates are getting better, a lot of stimulus, that kind of stuff. And so the algorithms are picking up on that, I'm sure. Have a good accuracy with that, 97%, 96% 5-day, 97% 30-day. Target's 175, about 8% price gain. Again, we have holdings in them. Super boring company, super boring. Facebook, we have holdings in them as I disclosed. They got pushed down quite a bit. Like Facebook, it's a call, expecting to go 268. And actually, when we made the recommendation on the 19th, it already passed 268. So today, it's at 275. So making some gains on this over the last, we own stocks and options on this, but it's been a good buy for us. Facebook. Facebook is notorious for saying something into their earnings announcements and setting their stock down. So we're definitely going to sell going into their earnings, just because comments they love to make in their earnings, which is super frustrating for option players. These guys, Western Digital, another company to put 72% accuracy. So, 3 out of 4 essentially in our predictions, expecting to go down just a hair. Western Digital, did some consulting for them way early in my career, like them. But again, kind of a boring hard drive, expanded other things, but kind of a boring company. But we're projecting a put on them with a slight drop in their stock price. So Western Digital, Microsoft, Seattle-based company like Microsoft. We're very good at predicting a 5-day for them. So just to note, we predict if this stock will hit or option will hit within 5 days. And then we have a separate prediction for longer term options. So more volatile, 5 days playing that, and then less volatility playing the longer term. Much better playing short term versus long term or Microsoft. We're having a call for them, and they've gone up. So these guys, when we project them on the 19th, they've exceeded past our predicted stock price of 226. They're at 227 now. We've had some holdings in them, and we actually sold off in the last week when it hit this price. Microsoft, great Seattle company. People love to work for them. I love Xbox and Destiny. I'm a gamer, so love these guys. And Bungie. But expecting a call. They've already hit our predicted stock price target, so they might be a little bit up. So we sold, and we're not holding into going into the earnings. So these are 9 that we've covered. Hopefully this helps you into the guidance. Again, 18 big announcements this week. It's going to be a crazy week of announcements. Just jumping into the forecasts. So if we look at the forecasts, analysts will continue to up their forecasts for the FANG Plus. Again, those 15 companies that dominate the Q's holdings and the Nasdaq. The other is pretty flat. We have a black line in there just to show you how much it's increased from year over year. So analysts expecting a big bump in Q1 and Q4. So hopefully those continue to show in the Qs. Not a lot of volatility playing into it, as the highs were into March and August, but certainly twice the amount of volume of last year compared to this year in terms of going into this kind of earnings seasons. Others of the non-FANGs, they're always pretty flat, similar level of volume from last year to this year. Price predictions, we're expecting a pop just on our growth predictions and estimates. So certainly should add the black line in just to show the difference, but it's a $160 difference from this year to last year's our price predictions. So it should be good growth. Non-FANGs, they're always pretty flat. There's about a 10% difference between this year and last year. Long volume, FANGs, a lot of call volume increasing, some put volume as well. On the other side, a lot of puts versus calls, which are predicting short-term volatility, folks going into the quarter, that kind of stuff. Generally, high growth for FANGs, not such good growth for the non-FANGers. 30-day predicted bear versus bull. It's just kind of flat. Some declines, some ups. We don't predict a lot of stocks for these guys. For the FANG pluses, we do more option predictions, but certainly bull versus bear long term, looking more like flat to what we project over the last couple of weeks. So a little bit long this time, but had a lot of earnings to cover. So covered 9 of them. Again, this is Prep to Grow's recommendations based on our big data and AI platform. So take that for a grain of salt. We have good accuracy with it, but hope earnings as well. Again, we never suggest buying into earnings. It's always a coin flip, especially with some random words that could be said in an earnings call that could be misstated. So typically we sell all of our holdings for companies that are going into earnings announcements because it is highly volatile. But I hope it works out for everybody, and I hope you have a great week of earnings, and happy trading. Take care.